तो मेन जो टॉपिक हमने कवर करना है दैट इज चेंज डेटा फीड। ये हमने बड़ा लिमिटेड कवर किया था एंड व्हेन वी आर डूइंग डेल्टा एंड द आइडिया इज एसेंशियली कि व्हेन वी आर मेकिंग चेंजेस टू द डेल्टा टेबल we can do something called enable something called change data feed. That means it can let us know, we can read what the changes are being done. And in relation to our current topic, which is streaming, is when you enable change feed, you can make this source for the streaming. तो आप डेटा लेके आ रहे हो कहीं से, you are inputting data to the table, and while the data is being written, you can enable change feed. So data being updated, read, appended, whatever, right? You can basically make it as a source of, um, uh, for example, Spark streaming. Or उसमें अपनी सारी windowing and everything gets applied, right? You can say what changes were made in the last 10 seconds or last 1 minute, and so on and so forth, right? All of those things that we saw, they get applied, right? So that is the idea. So when you're talking about data engineering, right? We can really see how do you move changes. For example, we know that based on our earlier understanding, okay, in the medallion architecture, we don't do much to the data that comes into the bronze layer. But when we bring into the silver, any changes, any updates, because that's where we're doing the modification and updates and joins and all the data cleansing is happening, right? So any changes that happen to silver, we can enable changes. So we can just read the changes happening into silver and move them into the gold layer, right? And this is the topic of our conversation today. How do we do all of that, right? So I have the code in my repository and I'll be showing that. Okay? Well, let's take a look. I'll get the latest code to the repository. Val Zoo code. So we'll go back and we'll look at structure streaming. So this is a very simple example. And what it does is it's basically connects to Spark, makes a session. And what it does is after that is it reads from a socket. ये हमने देखी थी multiple options where you can read from, for example, Delta Lake, you can read from files, Kafka, many different things, right? Here is another thing where we can read from socket, straight TCP/IP socket, right? And what it does is it's reading at port 9999. Basically, it's looking for anybody writing to that or somebody being writing, right? There is basically utility that we can use to write to socket at port 9999. So it can read that, right? And then what it does is it just simply splits. Space line with a space. So it's read the word basically. That's all it is, right? And it groups them, for example, group by, and it just counts. Okay? So very simple program, shows you the streaming. It's reading over a socket. Okay. So basically a tool that we use is NC. Let me just make sure if I can have NC running. Anyway, I'll show you guys later. So this is a very simple example of streaming over a socket and reading data over the socket, right? Over a specific port, and can do that, right? But then we come to our main point, which is CDC writer. I'll go into the Delta Lake and I will go back, come over here, right? So let me just connect to the kernel. And kernel is basically in my Jupyter server. And I'll connect. Let's make sure it is running, okay? Containers are not running. Let's run them first. This is in the Spark cluster, and I will run them. Let's make sure it is running. Let's see why it did not run. So some file was not able to. Give me 1 second so we can sort it out quickly. So we go back into the image. We'll say build image. One. Is to clean up the folders and all that so we can start fresh. And this is clean up. So they'll get recreated. So now let's take a look. Yeah. So this is the example, and I will run this one. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to submit this as a job in Spark. Yeah. So what we want to do is I'll show you how to do that and do whatever I need to do. Yeah. So when you go into containers, you can go into Spark Jupyter Server and say, I want to go, for example, attach VS Code, or I don't want to go, I want to do this, attach shell. Okay. And you will see that it opens the shell in the container. Okay. So I am sitting now in the Jupyter Server. Okay. I'm in Home Spark. Or Home Spark jo hai, it is in my, for example, over here, right? So if I look at the Jupyter Server from over here, यहाँ से मुझे दिखाएगा कि Jupyter Server के अंदर जो home folder है, that is Spark Home, is over here. Okay. So if I look at it, Spark cluster, let me just restart this. Okay. Because मैंने चलाने के बाद इसको वो folders बनाए हैं और delete किए हैं, clean up किया. Usually I do it beforehand, right? So I can recreate the folders. So what I'll do is again, I'll run the image again. So it creates. You can see अब folders बना दिए इसने सारे वापस, ठीक है? You can see folders are there. ये Spark Home folder. This is what I need basically, right? So what I will do is, ये जो मेरी Python file है, word counter, I will write it inside Spark Home. Okay. And I can mention over here, I can create a folder and I can say code. Yeah. और इसके अंदर मैंने ये अपना एक इसके अंदर I put it over here. Okay. So now if you look at it over here, I go back into my containers. Sorry, containers. In the Jupyter Server, I'll go back and I will say attach shell. So now I am basically, and you can see my folder that I have. ये मेरा code पड़ा हुआ है, and I'm sitting inside, for example, my environment. ये मैं इस Jupyter Server के अंदर हूँ. It has the connection to Spark and everything. I'm running in this environment. My code is over here that I want to execute. और ये jobs होती हैं that needs to be run. So it's not no longer a notebook. I'm running a job, right? So I'm trying to run a job. It is sitting over here. So let's see how we can run the job. So Spark, the way you run the job is we have something called Spark Submit. Okay? And Spark Submit is the way to give jobs and background jobs and long running and big jobs basically, right? This is what happens basically. And it tells you various different things that you can use to run jobs. Okay? So Python file दे सकते हो आप इसको different चीजें दे सकते हो and you can specify master कहाँ पे and all that, right? So let me show you what we do. Okay? So in the meantime, I want to run the tool where it says minus LK 999. Okay? ये मैं tool run कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. So we can write some data. और यहाँ पे I will job. I'll start my job. Okay, that's going to listen and read data from over here. So what I'll do is I'll say Spark submit, and I will say master Spark master, right? And then I will specify my code. Okay, what my file is. I'll specify the file name is py1, and I'm doing this one. It is just trying to basically start up. I don't know port मेरा खुला हुआ है कि नहीं यहाँ पे. Maybe make sure port is open. इसके अंदर मैंने ports की वो मैंने डाली थी. Let me see. I'll go back into the cluster. और इसके अंदर instructions थी. Yeah. So let's make sure the port खुला हुआ है यहाँ पे. And this one is 9999. Oh, sorry. That's fine. I'll show you guys once I do the port and all that. But anyway, this is Spark streaming basically, right? You can do it in your own PC as well and use the NC command and it'll write it and it'll read all these things, okay? Then we come to the main thing, which is delta table, which is part of your programming assignment too as well, right? This is the critical part and very commonly used, right, in the architecture. And this is where we come to this one, okay? So again, what I will do over here is I will select the kernel from my Jupyter server that I just created. So now it is using the kernel from the Jupyter server, okay? From the this Python environment, from this Spark environment, right? So let's run this. You can see its execution has started. And if it takes a little bit time, I will see what the exception is. Well, if it takes some time, we can see over here, actually in the logs, what is going on, okay? यहाँ पे सारी logs आ रही हैं, आप make sure ये सारी logs जहाँ पे from the master, everything is coming over here, right? Let's go back to our notebook. Let's see if you run this again, okay? Okay, so it's okay. So once I session created, and क्योंकि मैं टेस्ट करने लगा हूँ इसके अंदर CDC को, ये शेल यूटिलिटीज हैं और मैं इसका डेल्टा पाथ रिमूव कर रहा हूँ. फोल्डर डिलीट कर दूंगा तो डेल्टा टेबल विल गो अवे, राइट? दैट्स ऑल आई एम डूइंग. और उसके बाद मैं कर रहा हूँ कि मैंने एक डेटा फ्रेम बनाया और डेटा फ्रेम को मैं एक डेल्टा टेबल में राइट कर रहा हूँ विच हैज CDC इनेबल्ड. और ये मैंने को बताया था स्ट्रीमिंग के लिए वी वांट टू डू अपेंड. ओके, सो इफ यू लुक एट इट, ये वाला टेबल जो है, आई एम डूइंग दिस over here. You'll see delta tables. There is nothing right now. Let's see what happens when you run this code. Okay. And you will see a table create हुआ है मेरा यहाँ पे, right? अब table create हुआ है, I'm writing some data to it, right? Let's see. ठीक है? And you can see also कि मेरा data create हुआ है. And this is the nice thing about running in your own environment. You can see all the changes. ठीक है? ये मेरा data create हुआ है. इसके अंदर इसने records लिखे हैं. ये स्कीमा है इसका और यहाँ पे ट्रांजैक्शन लॉग है इसकी, राइट? एंड CDC इनेबल हुआ है इसके ऊपर. नाउ मैं क्या करूंगा, आई विल मेक सम चेंजेस, ओके, एंड कीप एन आई ओवर हियर व्हाट हैपेंस. तो मैंने डेल्टा टेबल को लोड किया और मैंने कहा एन आईडी इज टू चेंज द टाइटल टू सिक्योरिटी. You can see a stage commits के अंदर you see all these files coming in, right? इसके अंदर आपको दिखा रहा होगा different चीजें. Of course, it is not for us to readable, but it is showing you, right? Update has happened and where is reflecting the value that have come and all that, right? उस समय जो लॉगिंग कर रहा है वो उसकी सारी, right? A min max value, it is writing to it also in the delta log. So it's doing all of that, right? And now is the important part. I want to read the changes. क्या changes हुई हैं? तो इसने बताया कि इनिशियली अपना टेबल बनाया था, उसके बाद आपने इंसर्ट्स किए हैं, राइट? ये आपके पहले इंसर्ट्स थे, राइट? तो इफ यू कैन सी, ये मेरी 3 रोज इंसर्ट की थी मैंने. तो उसने कहा आपने सबसे पहले इंसर्ट किए थे इसके अंदर, उसके बाद उसने कहा आपने डिलीट किया एक. लेट्स सी इफ यू डिलीट समथिंग, राइट? कौन सा डिलीट किया हमने? ये हमने डिलीट किया, राइट? व्हेन ID इक्वल 3, ये डिलीट हो गया उसका. वी डिड दिस वन. और फिर उसने कहा कि यू हैव अपडेटेड समथिंग, दिस record. Update happened and also it gave us in the pre-image, उसने कहा original value was this. और उसके बाद उसने कहा आपने जब अपडेट कर लिया, the updated value was this, right? You can see it from over here. हमने कहा जहां पे ID2 है वहां पे डिपार्टमेंट को set this value security, right? तो हमने डिपार्टमेंट चेंज किया उसका. तो उसने बताया कि चेंज से पहले वैल्यू ये थी, चेंज के बाद वैल्यू वाज दिस, राइट? So what we can do now is the change one, we can write it delta table back again, right? Let me see what it's saying. क्या error message आया? Let's see something else. Saying unable to clear, unable to overwrite, because your mode is append already. Let's see if I change the mode. Oh no, ये मैं करना क्या चाह रहा हूँ आपको बताता हूँ, सॉरी। अब मैं ये कह रहा हूँ मैंने रीड किए वैल्यूज and I'm writing it to some, for example, CSV file, right? I'm just writing to a CSV file. तो ये आप करोगे अपनी स्ट्रीमिंग, अपनी प्रोग्रामिंग असाइनमेंट के अंदर भी, कि आप रीड करोगे वैल्यूज एंड यू विल राइट इट आउट टू समवेयर. सो आई एम रीडिंग इट, आई एम सेइंग read the values, the modified values only, and from the CDC change data feed, and write them out to this CSV file. Okay. Yes. So now if you look at it, I go to Spark Data. ये मेरा CDC आउटपुट है. यहाँ पे मैंने records देख लिए हैं, ठीक है. I have written them. So you can see कि उसने changes जो for example whatever the changes were, मैंने CSV के अंदर write कर दिए. And I can do whatever, right? Previous post and all that. I can get only the changes as well. So what I can do is, for example, if I go back over here, right? If I go back over here, I will look at the data again. I can say CDC df dot filter, right? अब मैं इसको कह रहा हूं कि show me only the changes. I'm not interested in change inserts. मुझे सिर्फ चाहिए data that got updated, right? And this is what you will do. Now you see I got only what I'm interested in, right? आप इसके अंदर ये different जो status है, you can pick those things, right? आप इसमें मल्टीपल वैल्यूज ले सकते हो, वॉट एवर, नथिंग रियली स्पेशल, राइट? बट सीडी से आपने कहा मुझे सिर्फ अपडेटेड वैल्यूज चाहिए. आई हैव ऑल द अदर स्टफ, बट वॉट एवर इज बीइंग चेंजिंग, आई नीड टू नो दैट. So this is how you work with CDC, right? मैंने रीड की एंड आई एम राइटिंग इट. अब आप इसको वेब सर्विस में कहीं कॉल कर लो, आप इसको लेके डेटाबेस में अपडेट कर दो कहीं पे, वॉट एवर इट इज. But whatever changes are being done in the delta tables, you can actually read the changes only, the data before or data after, and after that, then you can write it to anywhere, right? अभी मैं इसको CSV में write कर रहा हूँ, right? I can filter, I can get the values, and I can write it to somewhere. So this is what we need to understand how to work with CDC, right? Change data feed. और ये बड़ी कॉमन टेक्नोलॉजी है, नॉट जस्ट इन स्पार्क के डेटाबेसेस के अंदर भी है. आपके टेबल्स चेंज हो रहे हैं, अपडेट्स हो रहे हैं, यू आर ओनली लुकिंग एट चेंजेस, राइट? सो यहाँ पे फॉर एग्जांपल when I'm reading, right? When I'm reading, I can, for example, वो रीड ही कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे मैं ऑप्शन दे सकता हूँ यहाँ पे, राइट? I can do this thing right over here, right? कि मुझे कौन कौन से स्टेटस चाहिए. I can do filtering right over here. Okay. So if I go back over here, I can say cdc df dot, ये मेरा पहली कमांड थी, right? Read वाली कमांड थी. I'll just use this one again. And I can say I don't need this one. change type is this, और उसके साथ मैंने लोड किया, right? मैंने option change data feed किया, and I can say, for example, and then I can say cdc dot show. Okay. So I need to filter needs to happen separately. Once it is loaded, change data feed, then I will filter, I guess. I think you can do it. I will check in this one how to do it with the web while we are loading. I'll find out this one. cdc df dot filter. और यहाँ पे I can say no, I want to do filter. And I can do, for example, यहाँ पे मैं कहता हूँ मुझे वो दो चाहिए. ठीक है, यहाँ पे मैं कहता हूँ is in. I can specify, for example, this one, or I can say insert. Okay, let's see. I will look at these two things. Okay. So you can see I got this one. ये तो मैंने show किया उसको पूरा, so that's what's coming. I'll remove this one. Okay. So you can pick whatever you're interested in. ये by the way जो मैं कर रहा हूँ show truncate, just to show you. If I don't do this, it does it like this. Okay. ये truncate करते सारे results को. So that's why we do this one. Okay. And the idea is जब मैं read करके then you can iterate over it and write it to a database, write it to whatever, and update some downstream systems, right? This is the whole idea of streaming. ये हमने जो यहाँ पे कहा था, let me just see, right? हमने ये कहा था silver to gold, transmit changes, audit trail. This is precisely what we are doing, right? When you're able to pick something and we are able to modify, right? Or pick it and then put it, take the changes to downstream systems, right? Or based on this, we did the, let me just see, sorry. तो हमारा जो आर्किटेक्चर था स्ट्रक्चर्ड स्ट्रीमिंग का, sorry, this is the Windows, the first one. जो हमारा आर्किटेक्चर था ओरिजिनल, this one, right, where we started off from. So once you have the changes, आप changes कर रहे हो इसके अंदर, यहाँ से changes लेके you can do whatever, right? For real-time analysis and various different things, you can do this one, right? So Delta Lake से मैंने CDC on किया हुआ है, and I can do this one. Now we look at this aggregations. के data आ रहा है मेरे ऊपर, but source is Delta Lake as well. So instead of this one, I can make the source Delta as well, because Delta के अंदर changes आ रही हैं. It is doing changes. It is writing out changes from the CDC. I can read the changes from CDC as well, right? Let's take a look. When Delta Lake itself becomes the source, right? If you look at it over here, यहाँ पे मेरे पास है Delta CDC writer, right? So what it does is, it's a Python file, Delta Lake, nothing special. ये मेरा structure है data frame का, right? And what I've done is, I have created data frame. There is no initial data. मैंने टेबल के अंदर राइट किया, अपेंड मोड के साथ, मैंने को बताया था अपेंड मोड करना होता है इसके साथ, और CDC इनेबल कर दिया मैंने इस डेल्टा टेबल के ऊपर, राइट? एंड देन व्हाट आई एम डूइंग इज आई एम राइटिंग न्यू वैल्यूज, राइट? So it sleeps for 1 second and then it writes values. Okay, it continuously write values into the table. हमने जो continuous tables का बताया था, ये this is what I'm doing precisely, right? So उसको साथ साथ मैं उसके अंदर लिखता जा रहा हूँ, मैं डेल्टा के अंदर I'm writing. So whenever you're getting data from somewhere, यहाँ तो मैं I'm simulating the data right? यहाँ पे मैं ये record ये data frame जो है ये बना रहा हूँ और I'm writing it to the delta, right? So it acts as a source. क्योंकि CDC enable हुआ है, I can keep on reading the changes, right? So if I want to run this job, again I can, for example, मैं इसको अपने home के अंदर I can put it into my code folder. Let me just make sure. Spark Home, and I have code, and I can put it over here. Okay, let's see. I'll copy and paste. So jobs of the background jobs करनी होती, this is the best way to do this. Okay, so you can see the output and everything as well. तो मैं यहाँ पे और ये background jobs and Databricks has something very similar also. My Python code के करके वहाँ पे user interface आपके पास, and you will do something very similar. But under the hoods, this is what's happening, right? उसका अपना engine है to feed, and this is Spark Submit के अंदर you can do the same thing. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. अब यहाँ पे मेरे पास code है, and I want to write, right, to make it a streaming source. तो मैं इसको यहाँ पे I will paste it. And again, I will attach my container. Jupyter server, I'll attach shell. The back was Spark submit. And I will say py2 you specify Spark master, and then you submit. So Spark submit is the way to submit job to the Spark master, to the Spark cluster, and it starts running basically. Okay? Within a Spark environment, it connects to Spark, and that's what it does. Okay? It starts right away. Maybe there's something in my image. I will check. मैं कुछ चीज आगे पीछे कर रहा था उसके अंदर. But basically what it'll do is it'll write stuff to the Delta table with CDC enabled. And so CDC we can continuously read with different windows and all that, right? It should be writing basically. It should not take this much time. मैं देख लूँ so I will क्या कहते हैं troubleshoot this thing, what is happening and why it is taking this much time. Yeah, there's something going on. Let me just see what is the issue. Let me just hold on. I will check in a second. To run our Python file, right? So let me take a look. If I do it, this one again, I'll remove this one. I will check what is happening. It starts running right away. Should not be any issue. But I'll check. मैं कुछ changes कर रहा था इसके अंदर image के अंदर. So maybe something has happened. I'll take a look. My idea is again very straightforward. I'll give it 1 minute. And we can actually take a look in the logs and see, okay, what is happening. Okay. This thing Spark events does not exist. Maybe the Purana wala error, I think. This is the old one. Yeah, I'll check इसका क्या मसला हो रहा है. Now we can try one more thing, which is that I can try to basically use the interpreter, and I will use the, I won't be able to do that. Maybe I think the issue is this. I don't need this one over here. Okay, it is already there. Let me just make it clean. Let's try to run it again. Yes, that was the issue. Connectivity information हमें चाहिए नहीं होती उसके अंदर because we are already running in the context of Spark. So now you can see it is writing CDC enabled delta table. Okay, that was the issue. Since we are running within the context, Spark submit खुद कर रहा है, we don't have to specify anything. Okay. And similarly, what I can do is, if I go back into CDC reader, we can see कि यहाँ पे write कहाँ पे कर रहा है, right? The table it has is CDC writer table है, right? So the reader है, it will read from the same one, changes, right? So यहाँ पे this is where our streaming stuff is coming, right? इसने यहाँ पे लिख ली है, CDC changes लिख ली है, and we can see also, right? ये हमारा method है जो हमने last time if you remember we covered. ये हमारा stream है, right? ये checkpoint location हमें बतानी होती है. Then it reads the stream, and stream type is delta, and with a change feed enabled, right? Window, we provide the window, right? Window is for the tumbling window. हमने सिर्फ उसके लिए 10 seconds का time दिया हुआ है. Expression is के start and change type we are doing and count. Okay? ये हमारी जो वो query है kind of, this is what it is. And it's writing, right? It's writing this thing on the console, for example. So I go back over here, and I'll put this in my code again. This file as well. Sorry. Go back. Reader. Copy. And paste. Okay. So if I do this, मैं अपने container के अंदर बैठा हूँ, I can see this file over here, right? So I can say again Spark submit and py2, and I want CDC reader this time. Yeah, let's see what happens. You can turn off these logging messages as well. And based on the windows, I want to be able to read the data from the CDC based on my windows, based on the changes, whatnot, right? right? It's sitting over here. Let's see what happens over here now. वो कह रहा है कि आपने इसमें से so इस query के अंदर basically start reading the change type format reaching to, and I think we have to specify. There are error getting change data for range 2021 as change was not recorded for version 20. अगर describe history करें आप इसकी, let's see. We can say I do this one, right? We can look at this one. Anyway, I'll debug this later. But you can see it is simply saying कि आप उसी change feed लेना चाह रहे हो और जो version आप बता रहे हो उसका it was not enabled at that time. Okay. So we can do this little bit of debugging and find out. For example, इसका, and that's why it's very important to get around and see where what is happening, right? इसके अंदर I can create a new notebook, for example, structured streaming के अंदर, and I can say, for example, new file, and I can say py2 delta cdc debug.ipynb. Okay? Just to debug a few things, and let me just make the connection to this one. Okay. And let me see, where is my debug file? Over here, right? यहाँ पे अब मुझे बताना पड़ेगा master, right? Because I'm in the notebook. और यहाँ पे मुझे kernel select करना पड़ेगा from my Jupyter. Oh, sorry. I need the imports. Let's see where the imports are. This one fix कर लूँगा इसको, it's not a big deal. इसमें you can do another, and this is my delta table path. It's fine. I want to do one also Spark, not set log level, right? I want to do just some, so I don't get warnings or anything, okay? I will let it finish. तो इन चीज़ों को आप notebook level के ऊपर you can turn them off, okay? Using this set log level. But these are the critical points, right? आप CDC के अंदर write कर रहे हो, वहाँ से changes pick कर रहे हो आप, and this is your architecture basically, right? कि as data is coming, you're writing them to the source, और इस source के अंदर basically ये हमारी जो again slide थी, source where Kafka and files are, you can have the CDC enabled data tables as your source of data as well. Okay, that is the idea. So what I will do is I will restart the kernel. It restarts in the container, right? And I will run it again, right? Just to make sure everything is clean. पता नहीं क्यों rolling manager, I will check here rolling manager की error क्यों आ रहा है. Sure, ये इसके अंदर Let's see if we can create this file anyway to get rid of this error message. Op Spark is this one, logs. Spark log is यहाँ पे है ये. It is over here. It is not loaded properly. The configuration file miss हुई है इसकी. I will see. Otherwise, file is there. Yeah, over here. Check again. Okay, it is saying कि इसका वो हुआ हुआ है. Anyway, I'll fix this. I'll debug this issue, and I will find out कि version के अंदर कहाँ पे उसका I need to read. But idea is basically आप enable करोगे CDC को, आप data write करोगे उसके अंदर, and then you can read the data off of the CDC table. That is the idea basically as part of streaming. और streaming window के अंदर we are basically setting this up, right, to read this one. CDC reader के अंदर हम इसके windows will add. जो हमने windows different windows पढ़ी थी, हमने उसके अंदर क्वेरी डालनी है और उसी को मैंने ब्रेक डाउन किया हुआ, राइट, ऑन द सीडीसी को. सो इफ यू लुक एट इट, हमारी जो स्ट्रीमिंग थी पार्ट 2, दिस व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू डू, राइट. इसके अंदर ये मैंने दिस व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, राइट. अभी मैंने वाटर मार्किंग सेट किया, मैंने ग्रुप बाय किया हुआ है, अपनी विंडो मैंने सेट की हुई है, राइट, एंड आई एम काउंटिंग, राइट. अभी मैंने डिफरेंट विंडोज नहीं इस्तेमाल की बाकी, ठीक है. सो आई एम जस्ट डूइंग अ वेरी सिंपल वन. ग्रुप बाय मैंने किया हुआ उसको, टाइम स्टैम्प कॉलम को, एंड आई एम डूइंग दिस वन. तो यहाँ पे मैं अपना बेसिकली दिस व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, राइट. आई कैन डू 1 मिनट एज वेल. लेकिन वो मेरा डेटा मैंने, मुझे पता है मैंने उसको थोड़ी देर के लिए किया था. आई थिंक एवरी सेकंड आई एम राइटिंग, वो 20 सेकंड्स के अंदर मैंने किया था उसको, राइट. एंड लेट मी जस्ट सी, एक पाइथन से until it starts acting up, I will just restart it. Again. I'll fix the kernel. Let's see. And I mean, if something is happening, अब मैं यहाँ से उसके अंदर connect कर रहा हूँ, I can go directly into that, right? I can go directly into, and I can say localhost. This is where I'm connecting essentially, right? ये मेरी directory नजर आ रही है इसके अंदर हमें already, right? And this is I have. So I can even copy this one, इसको इसी code directory के अंदर, and we can run it directly and see what is happening, right? Instead कि मैं इसको, so I can try to run and see what happens over here, right? So basically what happening is when says permission denied, ये तब होता है basically. So now it is easier to see the error message, right? इसको मैं I'll show you what to fix essentially. ये आपने जब folders कभी बनते हैं, sometimes folder created before, since it's talking from Unix to Windows, ये it can do this one, right? So it's a very simple fix. इसके अंदर आप इसको stop करते हैं इस environment को, it'll get fixed. It's a 1 second fix actually. We'll stop this one. और यहाँ पे what I will do is in the cleanup folders, Spark Home. I don't want to do this one. Okay? Besides this one, I want to do everything else. Even Delta tables, I can remove this one. Okay. And I can say cleanup. So now if I run this, let's see what happens. I'll start this environment again. And I will say close. And I will say, for example, I will run this one again, okay? Again, permission denied. Not sure why. I need to stop it again. Sorry. Let's see if I can do delete now. Yeah, now it is deleted. You can see. Now let's take a look. Go back into our this one, and I will run it again. Okay. Now I need to take a look. Why क्यों इसके अंदर ये बार-बार वो उसके अंदर जा रहा है कि permission denied on this one. I'll take a look and see what the debugging is. Let me remove this one. इसका तो नहीं मसला हो रहा. It's executing. I will debug this. I'm not sure. I think it's okay beside this logging level. We can continue in this one. Right. So इसके अंदर अगर मैंने read करना है उसको delta table को, we can take a look and see the changes, right? यहाँ से मैं इसमें लोड कर सकता हूँ in our CDC reader के अंदर, जो मेरी examples थी already इसके अंदर CDC के अंदर, right? So I can basically read and delta path. I can do this one, okay? Let's see what happens if we do this one. In our add a cell, and I will do this, okay? And delta table path is this. Let's see what the CDC is there already. A Spark session. I'm not sure क्यों ये logging का मुझे मसला आ रहा है इसके अंदर. It was running fine. I can do this. Yeah, let's go back. यहाँ पे I can say reset clear output cell. Okay. Let's do it again. So I'm trying to read the change feed from this one, okay? ये मैं logging level कर दूंगा इसमें. I don't know, maybe it's messing up the Spark session basically. I will check कि क्यों exception आ रही है इसकी. But anyway, the idea is main चीज जो है यहाँ पे that is कि आप CDC को enable करोगे और वहां से आप Windows से आप उसको read करना शुरू करो उसी changes को. That is the idea. How do you pick changes every certain number of seconds, every 10 seconds, and you can do this one, okay? ये मैं कर दूंगा इसको. I'll fix this one, okay? I will pick this one. Should not be an issue. Yeah, Spark is not defined. I will see ये जो exception आ रही है, what is happening, okay? Minor चीज़ है. But main चीज़ है जो what we have seen is essentially, right? Let me save. And that is to be able to read the changes, okay? CDC writer था हमारा, we can make, and then we have CDC reader, okay? And this is what we have. So Windows के साथ you're gonna read the changes, whatever they're coming, and those kind of things, right? And this is the important part. कि आप किस तरह streaming करते हो, किस तरह आप changes को read करते हो, and so on and so forth, right? So I wanted to cover this thing today. इसमें मैं एक दो और चीजें I will do another session maybe tomorrow or day after, right? We'll go into, I'll fix these things and I'll demonstrate one more time quickly, and then I'll add couple of more things जो आपके प्रोग्रामिंग असाइनमेंट के अंदर आ रही हैं आपकी, ठीक है? इसमें ऑटो लोडर है डेटाब्रिक्स के अंदर, हाउ टू लोड कंटिन्यूसली, ये हमने भी CDC से किया है. उसके अंदर हाउ यू कैन राइट दीज चेंजेस टू ऑटो लोडर. विल सी दोज थिंग्स, ओके? वो बड़ी क्रिटिकल फंक्शनैलिटी है, हाउ टू बिल्ड दीज सिस्टम्स, हाउ टू बिल्ड दीज काइंड ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर. तो मैं आपको एक चीज और कवर करूंगा, सो इट हेल्प यू टू पुट एवरीथिंग टुगेदर. अगली असाइनमेंट इज लिटिल बिट इन्वॉल्व. आई विल गिव यू लिटिल बिट एक्स्ट्रा टाइम so we can move forward, okay? और उसके बाद then I will do one more couple of more sessions on the we'll get Saturday को हम करेंगे इंशाल्लाह उसके ऊपर on the basically land graph. We'll start on the agents basically, ठीक है? तो अभी आपकी next example will be completely on CDC, chain data feeds on streaming, and it'll be very, very involved example. Or based on this, we'll continue, right, with the agents and everything else as well. So that's all I have. That's all I have, okay? And yes, I will upload the lectures and everything. मैं slides वगैरह सारी upload कर दूंगा इंशाल्लाह, ठीक है? So that's all. I do not have anything else. So I will upload this for